What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the LiucciCast. We're going light this week. We got a special guest lined up for next week. And for right now, though, Sean and I have a lot to discuss. We have a lot to discuss about A&M. We have a lot to discuss just college football in general, and who knows where else we'll go with it. So let's just dive right in with the Aggies. We talked a lot about Missouri and the defense and review. We're going to talk. I just want to say, at this point in the season, 5-1 doesn't shock me. If you gave me an option on what 5-1 would look like, other than my selfishness of wanting to see A&M win this big high-profile game at the beginning of the year, I think this is the best 5-1 I could have hoped for. And what I mean by that is this. Because of circumstances, you gave your backup quarterback some real development on the road in the SEC, in Cowboy Stadium, fourth quarter close game.
That's right.
You are coming off your best game of the year on offense and defense, and I don't think anyone could question that. Just an across-the-board performance, a whipping of a top 10 team. So you started losing to a top 10 team, you finished whipping a top 10 team.
That's right.
And I think that's a great example of the progress. And more importantly, Sean, they're 3-0 in the SEC and riding a 5-game winning streak. To me, if you gave me the perfect scenario and said, you're going to be 5-1, how do you want to do it? I think that's it. It guarantees you nothing, but if you had me say you're going to lose one, how do you want it to go? I think this is the way I would have picked.
Yeah, I think in getting a team, to and through those situations, getting the team from being kind of a jumbled group of guys to the finish line, and I know this is not the finish line yet, but just to the point of being together and playing together and the point that we're at right now, it's a tough task. And I think we've done a great job. Like I said, we've built it every week by week. It's kind of like a little baby, building a team like this. You want your kid to kind of go through adversity and kind of bump their knee and get up and grow and be able to handle all that stuff themselves, right?
Yeah.
And that's where our team is an excellent example of that. You got your top-notch, quarterback going down right at the beginning of the season. You got to pull in your backup quarterback. Now, in that moment, your team has to believe in each other, and they got to believe in their own talents, and they got to believe in this new guy that's going to step in and play. It's a lot of change at one time, right? So it's very mature of our team to handle that and handle it the way that they did. And then to see this past week against Missouri, how Connor's back, playing better, playing good, looking like his old self, and we just kind of put that whole thing together. The defense put the D-line and the linebackers and the secondary together. Our receivers are looking good. Noah Thomas is out there running around. We got a running back that's running wild now. So it's a beautiful thing for me to just watch.
Somebody, NFL, who was it? It might have been one of your former teammates. No, he was a little older than you. Jordan Pugh.
I played with Pugh.
You did?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, at the very end, at the very beginning for you. Yeah.
Yep.
Pugh was saying that he reminds that Le'Veon Moss reminds him of Frank Gore to running. There was another comparison that I really liked, and I'm trying to think of who it was now. Is there a back that he reminds you of that you either played with in college or saw in college or the NFL? Is there somebody that when you watch him?
He's a thumper, right? So I think that Frank Gore is a good example for him. He runs something like that. Like, he doesn't mind the contact. He wants to run in and through people. Kind of like not that I'm saying he reminds me of these guys, but like a Marshawn Lynch or Adrian Peterson. That's his mindset. He wants to just run you, barrel you over, stiff arm you, keep running, get in the open field. Yeah, he's a really good-looking back. Yeah. Good-looking young back, right?
Yeah.
I like the way that he runs.
I do, too. And I think he's been we mentioned earlier in the defensive review, we said Nick Scorton, defensive midseason MVP. I think it's no question. Offensively, that's Le'Veon Moss. I mean, leading the SEC in rushing, had
looking like a workhorse.
Coming off a couple massive games. And it wouldn't shock me, Sean, to see them just really start riding him, in the second half, because he hasn't gotten a ton of carries, which is a great thing. Thanks to Amari Daniels and some of E.J. Smith.
And if we want to talk about our offensive midseason MVP, it's the group that
Yeah.
It's excellent that we're not talking about them.
Yeah, you're right.
We have not talked about the offensive line and any gaps in what they're doing and any gaps in pass coverage and any gaps in their run blocking.
Which is crazy.
These guys have been playing lights out. These guys, now we are what, 5 games, 6 games in?
6.
These guys are playing lights out, man. These guys are doing exactly what they're supposed to do. They're doing exactly what they need to do for their team, and they're leading in a way that the O-line has to lead. The offensive line and defensive line has to lead a team.
What's crazy, you say all that, and it's so true, and by the way, I just love, we don't talk about them enough, the left side of that line, Trey Zune and Chase Basantis. I think
Basantis, man, is nasty.
Yeah, nasty. And what a big deal to get him back out. Nobody talks about this, and there were this many headlines, all over the country when he went in the portal. And there was a graphic of like Ohio State, LSU, all the teams he might go to. And it was like this when he decided to come back.
Right.
Nobody really made a big deal of it. They made a big deal of it. It was a big deal that he came back. And then what I really liked about Chase Basantis is he came back from the portal and said, yeah, I'll play in the bowl game. He could have easily kind of drug that out and been like, yeah, I'm going to sit out the bowl game because I was in the portal, but I'm going to come back. He went right into practice like the day after, played in a very meaningless bowl game without his head coach, played a position he'd never played at guard. I mean, that's a big part, I think, of his development, and just to prove to everyone, like, I'm a football dude. I'm going to play football, and you want me to play guard? Sure, let's do it. We'll start now.
That's right. And
love that about him.
What a name. Chase Basantis.
Yeah.
It's akin to Richie Incognito.
That's true. He's tatted up like him, too. He's got, and I think, might be wrong. I think Incognito might be from like Arizona or somewhere, but Chase from Jersey. Tough dude, but a really great dude. But you look at their play. They lost their starting center in game 1, Mark Naboo. They're still playing 8 guys. So with Mark, who they lost for the season, they're like 9 deep because, you forget they're rotating 2 tackles. Fathery's had a resurgence. And then Dewberry has played a lot for Armaj Reed Adams when Armaj has been banged up or in game or he was hurt. So,
but we haven't noticed
and then they're playing Shanahan and Coley have kind of been, Coley, then Shanahan took over, then he got hurt. They're playing 9 dudes, which is, and you're not noticing.
The best thing about all of that is we're not noticing it.
Yeah.
The backups are coming in. They're doing the same thing as the starters are doing. The one starter goes out for the whole season. Okay, cool. Our backup's going to come in and play just as good as the starter should play, right? Yeah. Basantis moves to guard. He's going to play just like he should play, right? All these guys, the tackles are rotating. They're coming in and they're doing their job every time. So it's excellent what they're doing on the O-line.
I want to ask you something we haven't really talked about. I don't feel like you got into scouting, dipped your toe in it, see if it was for you. You were going to go the football route and just check it out. Now you're doing really well in what we call the regular workforce. What is it like seeing a couple of guys that you played with being young coaches on a staff that's doing so well right now? Because we sitting here, we're talking about Scorton and Shamar Stewart, and your teammates coaching them every day, Tony Giardetti. And we talk about Dalton Brooks and Ratcliffe at safety and Bryce Anderson. That's Jordan Peterson. How cool is that for you to watch those guys because they're so young in their careers still?
Man, but are they young? I mean, they're not young to me in football.
Jordan was with DeRuyter from day one.
Yeah, man,
Tony played in the NFL for a bit and then did the, he was the analyst. And,
JP's, how old is JP? 37 or 38 or something like that? Like, he's not a young guy, and he's been around ball since he was.
Is he that old?
Very, very
Jordan,
young.
we got to check that. I feel like he's like 36 maybe. 34.
Like that. He's not 34. I'm 33.
Okay.
But yes, I mean, I'm excited for those guys.
Yeah.
For both of those guys, as well as Gerard over there at the Texans, man, it's great to see my teammates going out there and coaching them up.
Hodges,
yeah. Oh man, my boy Hodges. But so yeah, it's really good to see those guys. And it's like, as football players, we got this stuff in our head, and it's just like, I watch the game sometimes, and it's like I'm calling out stuff, and I'm looking at stuff, and I'm like, oh yeah, no, they're rolling the defense. Oh, it's the fire zone. Oh, this is that. They're in man. They're this. And it's like I sit there and it's almost like a brain dump sometimes, right?
Yeah.
So for those guys to find love in that and find a career in that, it's great. I couldn't have done it. I never wanted to be a coach, right?
Yeah.
going that route for me would have been tough, especially now in today's landscape. I don't want to coach no kid that makes $2 million.
Yeah, and coaches make a lot more than they used to, but
They're not making as much.
Players are still making more. Yeah.
Now,
in a lot of instances.
That's the reason why I said I'd never coach the NFL, is because these are grown men and they make more money than you. They're more important than you in the organization. You can't tell them nothing, really. In college, you certainly don't want I don't want an 18, 19-year-old that I can't say nothing to.
Speaking of coaches and Aggies, I was in Dallas, Texas, Sunday. And I watched the Lions take on the Cowboys. And by the end of that game, and if you don't think that was pre-planned, we all know it was, they beat them so bad that they're saying, you know what, you wanted to get us for an ineligible tackle last year. We're just going to start running reverses to them.
They threw a fade to the
fade to
Whoa.
him. To, what's his name? The tackle from Oregon, can't believe it.
Penei Sewell.
Penei Sewell.
Yeah.
Throwing fades to Penei Sewell.
Yeah.
They ran the pitch, the hook and ladder to him.
They were disrespectful in their play calling.
They beat Dallas that badly that they were able to just kind of clown.
You know what I love about
see
that, though?
In the NFL much.
I love about that. I love that it's NFL guys that's happening to, and they're getting embarrassed and blown out. Kind of like at every level. In high school, you see kids get blown out by 50. In college, you see kids get blown out by 50. Very rare that you see an NFL game where they blow them out, and especially a game like that where it's like they blow them out and they don't care. They're not trying to be, have some type of tact to this.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, man, we're gonna run a trick play, throw it to our tackle on y'all. You better stop it, or it's gonna be 100-0.
Well, I know for a fact that, had Dallas beaten Green Bay, that I forget how the playoffs were going, but there was a chance that the Detroit was going to have to go to Dallas, play a playoff game, and I think everybody on the Lions or in the Lions organization was all about it because of what happened a few weeks earlier in that game, and I think they knew that team we are not a good matchup for them. Like, they do not want to play us, and that played itself out. But I was just going to say, you were a player. Dan Campbell and kind of, I've been we've all been watching those post-game locker rooms, and just how difficult is that at that level to have that kind of rapport with your team, and not just, the honeymoon. It's easy, but people forget they went through, like, I don't remember if they were 1-15 or 3-13, but they went through that first season. Then the next year they were like 9-7, missed the playoffs by a game. That was the game they beat the Packers to knock them out of the playoffs. And then they were, and then last year, obviously.
I think with a guy like Dan Campbell, it's not that hard, right? Because
that's the key.
He's easy to resonate with. He's a real person, right? He's not one of these coaches who goes up there and tries to be perfect and say all the right things and do all the right things and whatever, right? He's not like that. He's a real person. He's just like the guys in the locker room. They know that he's just like them because they've seen him play. They know he's a player, right? And it just resonates with them. Everything that he says, they're eating it up because they know that guy knows how it feels to be out here and to do the grind to get to this point and even be able to play on Sundays, right? So they really respect him, and it's paying off for Dan Campbell big time. I'm happy to see it.
It's pretty amazing if over the years, if you really wanted to pay attention and you could see it coming. Like, he wins the Aggie Heart Award here, and he was the loudest voice, the biggest leader on the team with Datwin, Dante Hall. They had star players on the team. They had a tight end that they'd throw 90% of the passes to, and Derek Spiller, great college tight end. Dan was the voice. He was the guy. And that was a championship team. He goes to the Giants. They go to Super Bowl. He's the blocking tight end to Jeremy Shockey.
Right. He's a team guy, though.
Yeah, he goes to the Cowboys.
He's a glue guy.
Blocking tight end to Jason Witten. I've seen, because of our relationship, I've seen quotes from Keyshawn Johnson about him, Joey Galloway about him, Bill Parcells cried when he had to cut him, or Jim, was it Jim Fossil?
Yes, I believe.
The Giants coach back then?
I believe.
I remember hearing Jim Fossil talk about what they lost in Dan when he left and what it meant to that team, like their drop-off after the Super Bowl. So just over the years, you could just see it. Sean Payton basically said, you can come with me wherever you want in your career. It's easy to see the why, but it's cool to see that end product. And when I see that, it's probably like you feel when you see Von doing his thing, particularly early on.
Right,
now you're kind of used to it, right? This far in. But
all of those guys.
Yeah.
That leads me into another one of those NFL subjects I want to talk about. Devontae Adams got traded to the Jets today, right?
Yeah. Should have done it yesterday, last week.
So, yeah, I mean, he goes back out there, reunites with Aaron Rodgers. Now, do you think that Devontae Adams is an all-time great receiver? Or do you think that he's an all-time great receiver when he plays with Aaron Rodgers?
Man, I'm trying to remember him. I do think he's way up there. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, sure, right? Do I think he's as good as Mike Evans?
No.
Because Mike's doing it with Jameis, Baker, Tom Brady.
Yeah, you got right to my point, right?
They're not good.
A guy like Devontae Adams, man, he's a great player. I know all the players in the league respect him, but they respect him because of his skill set. When you are playing, when it's small margins between every player, we're all big and strong and fast, and like that's what really separates you, the skill set. And they know Devontae Adams' skill set is up there, right? So that's why they love him, right?
Yeah.
That doesn't mean he's the best player on the field on every Sunday, Sunday in and Sunday out, right? I think Mike Evans and Devontae Adams were drafted in the same draft class, if I'm not mistaken.
I think you're right.
People talk about Devontae Adams in a way that they don't talk about Mike Evans, and I do not like that.
I know. Although I have noticed that the Mike, last year and this year, the Mike Evans awareness club has started to really grow.
It's started
around
to get
the
disrespectful.
NFL.
I've started to get offended at listening to these people talk about Devontae Adams in one way, and then they're leaving Mike Evans over here like he's just an afterthought to this guy. But I don't think Devontae Adams is
I don't either.
Really even close
And
to
look,
Mike Evans.
And Mike's won a Super Bowl. He has, like you said, like Jameis, Tom Brady.
He's good.
And it's
He's
the
like
end
Hopkins.
of Tom Brady.
Like Hopkins, he's good with anybody.
And I think Mike's better than Hopkins. I think Hopkins can make
I think
the most spectacular. I think they're both Hall of Famers. But man, Mike, his career, it's going to be real crazy to compare like in three different positions, but like Von, Mike, and Miles when they're all done, to say who was the greatest
Von and Miles
Aggie in the NFL.
Von and Miles is apples to apples.
Yeah, that is true. That's true. So what were you talking about there? Oh, by the way, I don't know if I mentioned this. We may have talked about it before. I don't think you and I did, but I went to the Super Bowl in Vegas this year. And I'm going to tell you, you talk about wide receivers, and we're talking about Mike and Devontae. Mike is a big dude. When he walks around, when people realize that's an NFL receiver, he is a big dude. But I saw two people over there at like events I was at where I was like, those dudes cannot have played wide receiver. And like we had T. Fred in here the other day, and there are corners, a lot of them that are like his size. And it's like, how on God's green earth does this? It's like they're not even. So the two that Brandon Marshall is a giant.
Yeah, big dude.
I was shocked.
6'5".
Yeah, and like built like a 6'5". Like he's.
So you saw Cam Newton and Brandon Marshall?
No, the other one was a receiver too. It's obvious. You just haven't thought of it yet. Who would be the one receiver in the NFL?
Megatron?
Yeah. Well, not old Megatron. No. Current Megatron.
Oh, Metcalf?
Yeah.
See, but
DK.
That is what you just said. Disrespectful to Calvin
That's
Johnson.
true. I've seen Calvin, and I've seen him now though when he's skinnier than he probably was playing.
No, I'm saying DK Metcalf is no current Megatron.
Oh no. He's built.
He's just a big dude.
Yeah, no, he's not.
He's a
in his
bodybuilder
league,
or something. He ain't even close to Megatron.
Calvin Johnson is as good as
anybody.
And and what I love about Calvin Johnson is he said, but I saw
Metcalf
him.
ain't close to him.
I saw him on the sidelines of the Lions playoff games. He's down there pregame. I mean, he's an absolute tower. But now,
he's skinny now.
That many years later, he's off the weights and stuff. But DK Metcalf walks by and you go, I was sitting there with
what is that?
It was Chris Long and LaShawn McCoy.
Yeah.
We're standing there, and I was with Chris and a couple other guys.
Isn't Chris Long I'm sorry to cut you off. Isn't Chris Long a great guy?
I love him, dude.
Great guy.
He's so cool.
I got to meet him and be around him when I was training in Miami.
Really?
When I was playing, man. He's just a good guy, man.
I love seeing his success with and now he's doing, for a guy like me, for the older listeners would know this more than you, because it used to be like if you liked football, it was appointment TV every week was Inside the NFL.
Right.
Like when everybody in the 80s, it was on HBO. It was like
no more.
The only sports show on HBO, right? So for him to be doing Inside the NFL now is really cool. His podcast, but yeah, I met him, and within 5 minutes, we're like, really cool.
Great guy.
He's like, let's send a selfie to Dan, and we're sending selfies to Dan at like 3
a.m.
But yeah, so they were the ones that were like, hey, there's Megatron. They were the ones that were like, look, here comes DK. Here comes, and they're like tapping, and he just walking through the wind, and it's like, dude, how these guys. Point being, I'd love to see A&M get somebody that size and speed, or even like, honestly, like a Jeff Fuller type of guy too. Just a big physical 6'4".
Those kids are faster than Jeff Fuller now, though.
For
so they're the same size, but just fat. Like JJ Smith over at Ohio State.
Oh, yeah.
Man, that kid is like an NFL player, and he's 18.
Well, and speaking of Ohio State, so A&M is on the fringe of that mix. People are now talking about A&M as a playoff contender. My thought process, Sean, is this. Go win in Starkville where you've always struggled.
Yep.
Go win that game and come home. And if LSU gets by Arkansas, which I think will be a hell of a game this weekend in Fayetteville.
I think they'll beat them.
I think they should. But it's up there, and that's a you didn't play there, did you?
No, just at Jerry.
It was the year after.
3 years at Jerry World and 1 here.
Yeah, so the next year we went up there, and that is I'm looking forward to doing it every other year. I think that win streak against Arkansas won't be as one-sided simply because that's a big home field advantage. It's one of those SEC ones where you go, damn, it's so I think LSU will have their hands full, but I think they'll win. But if you get me through these next two, then we can start talking potential SEC title game and playoff where I'm going to be like, because what people don't realize is you could even split, not that you want to, you could even split with South Carolina and Auburn, and you would still be playing Texas where if you won, you're going to the SEC title game. And if you won, you're probably in the playoff.
I don't think we're splitting with South Carolina and Auburn.
You're worried more about the LSU?
Yeah, so
rank them. Rank
the game. Well, okay.
Give me your two toughest in order.
Yeah, so if we're talking the rest of our season, our season outlook moving forward, right? Our bottom two games, I think in my mind, are Auburn and South Carolina.
Really, more so than Mississippi State this week.
I guess Mississippi State. They're supposed to suck this year, right? So that's the bottom three.
South Carolina scares me a little.
Not me.
I'll tell you why.
We got guys just like those guys.
I think we beat them.
Yeah.
But that game scares me because that is again, I said Fayetteville. That is a tough, loud, 80+ thousand.
But so what? We're used to that.
We will be, but yeah. And they're winning on the road. But their D-line, I've watched their D-line kick Alabama's ass, and I watched their D-line kick LSU's ass. And that LSU O-line's good.
It's going to be a fist fight, though, because our O-line's good, right? Yeah. You're going to have to take it if you're going to take
and
it,
then they've got a dual threat QB and a good running back. So I
everybody's
think
good, right? Everybody's relatively good.
Exactly.
So,
it's the SEC in 2024.
Right. But those bottom three in my mind is Mississippi State, Auburn, South Carolina, right?
Yep,
and I think the most important game on our schedule is LSU.
I do, too.
I think we have to just okay, let's get through Mississippi State. Of course, next game is most important, right? Most important game of our schedule is LSU. If we beat LSU and we take them down here at home like we should, now we're cooking with grease, right?
I agree.
Now we're cooking with grease because now we got to just go and beat two teams we're supposed to beat, and then I think that Texas game is gonna. Of course, everybody knows it's not gonna be one-sided game. It's gonna be nasty. It's gonna be a battle. It's gonna be a fight out there, and I guess we're just gonna see who comes out on top.
I'll say this, Sean, just watching A&M and watching Texas, and I think, look,
number one or not, it doesn't matter.
Respect what Texas is doing. They're really good, but they haven't played. As you look at it now today, they haven't played anybody. They really haven't. Here's what I love about the matchup. And there are areas like Texas receivers are going to be very tough, and the way Sark calls, spreads everybody. Yeah. But
I think we're really good. Our players are really, really good. If our scheme and our players match up, on that day, like against Missouri, it's going to be bad. It's going to be
a hell of a game.
It's going to be a very close game.
Because I think I'll take A&M's D-line against any O-line.
Against any O-line.
And I'll take this Aggie O-line I think they can more than hold up against the Texas
hold up.
D-line. So, like, even if you want to call the trenches a wash, and I still got to see a group physically handle this D-line, but if you want to call the trenches a wash, if Connor Wigman plays like he did the other day, and really, to me, can play better because, as he gains confidence and as he kind of lets these receivers come along, like,
and you was just gonna come to play. I mean, it's gonna be a game, right? But I believe
just get there.
Just get there.
And
it's gonna be a
LSU, I'm
close
with
game.
you.
We just gotta, hey, whatever happens on that day, right? But just
I'm with
get
you
there.
with LSU though. If I want them to beat Arkansas this weekend.
Yeah, I do too.
I want them to come in as a top 10 opponent, and I want A&M to be 2-1 against top 10 teams.
Yeah.
Let's go around college football real quick. The last couple weeks, what stood out to you? What teams? What conference races? What player? Anything? What are some things that have jumped out to you as we close this out?
The team in conference races stands out to me over this last couple of weeks. Miami Hurricanes, man. They came back and got a nasty win that they needed bad, man. From what were they at? Cal?
They Cal, and then the
Berkeley.
week before was the Hail Mary against Tech.
Yeah, Hail Mary against Virginia Tech, against a good quarterback, good offense, good team over there, and then crazy comeback victory. But that shows something, right?
Yeah.
Being able to do that, being able to be down big and say, we're not giving up this game mid-third quarter, right? We're coming to get you, right? So that's big time. They got a big time
Miami
quarterback.
scare me? No.
Nah.
Does that show me that they might be a team of kind of not destiny to win the whole thing, but a team that's like destined to do some damage?
If you got a quarterback, you got a shot, right?
Good,
and that kid over there, he's calm. One of the biggest things I noticed about football players is, are they calm or are they jittery and frantic? And they're not, if anytime I see a calm player, that's a big plus to me, right? Especially at the quarterback position. There are not many, if you believe it or not, there are not very many calm quarterbacks who just are calm and cool and collected, and whatever they're doing is calm. Not that many. Their quarterbacks are head cases, right behind kickers. Kickers and quarterbacks, very just.
Well, hey, I'll tell you what stands out to me too. The Big Ten race is going to be fascinating. Oregon got that win.
Yep.
I don't know if Oregon's going to lose. But then you got Penn State with a big comeback against USC. So to me, that is a really fascinating, no offense to Indiana right now, that is a fascinating three-team race right now with the Ducks, the Buckeyes, and Penn State. Ohio State and Penn State do play. Like, it's going to be fascinating to see. And I could certainly see a world where all three of them get in the play. I would have a hard time not seeing them at this point because Penn State, I don't think they have a lot of landmines left outside of Ohio State.
I think Oregon's looking good, man. I don't know what was going on with their quarterback maybe a week ago.
The first couple games.
Oh, he played bad, right?
Yeah.
But
they barely beat Boise, and they barely beat, like, I don't know, I'm going to say the wrong team, but like Portland or something.
It's their defense really carrying them. I mean, in Boise, I kind of give him a little grace on that one because the Boise running back is playing like a maniac. Well, I don't know what. He stands straight up like he doesn't care at the beginning of the play, and then just.
He's good.
He's really. He might steal that Heisman. He might steal that Heisman from Travis Hunter. Playing on both sides and doing all the stuff that nobody's ever done. He might steal it, man.
Speaking of Travis Hunter, I give Deion some credit this week. I watched that game, and Travis Hunter gets hurt. And they were that close to beating K-State. And I have all the respect for that K-State program. They're still doing it all these years later.
Yep, same thing.
5-1 now for them. Consistent. But that was a tough game in Colorado. And the Big 12, Sean, Big 12, you have my attention. You are fun to watch. They did a great job of salvaging that thing. And when you got teams from, UCF, West Virginia, Cincinnati, they don't really do it for me.
Playing stuff all
the
way
West Coast ones have really got my attention. Colorado's entertaining. They got juice there in Boulder. Utah, really proven program there.
Yep.
Then you got the Arizona State. Arizona State's fun.
It's exciting, man. It's like late night WWE wrestling, man.
It is.
It's really exciting to see that.
It reminds me of the old WAC teams back in the day. Or, BYU versus San Diego State or Wyoming. But it also reminds me of just it's kind of taken over to me for Pac-12 After Dark. You know who's 0-3 in that conference?
Who?
Oklahoma State.
Well, they've got the kid coming out with the chlamydia as an injury
What?
and stuff, right?
I think that was fake. You fell for that. You're like Nuno now. That was not real.
Are you sure that wasn't real?
Yes, that was not real.
That seemed very real.
That was like another fan
I feel like
base.
he really didn't play, though.
He did.
When he was hurt?
It was earlier when they played Arkansas.
Are we sure that wasn't real?
Ollie Gordon. No, yes.
Cade, can you double check that?
Double check it, Cade. That was not real. That's like Nuno falling for the guy that called in and said his name was Huge Ass.
I was about to say, if you got those type of problems, man,
No.
they're blasting you on ESPN that you
They got other
chlamydia.
problems in Stillwater, but I don't think that's one of them. I think that
I
one's
thought he got chlamydia and got arrested, that guy.
I think that one, he did get arrested. I think that one's more reserved for Lubbock.
Yeah, that
But,
Raider rash.
by the way, Tech
I
is
pissed the
sitting
guy off the other day talking about Raider rash, man. He was legitimately
Why
mad.
you get mad?
I mean, just, I don't know, maybe the way I brought
Tired
it
of
up.
it?
Yeah,
You
just
got
tired of
tired
that
of
shit.
Look, maybe he had it. Texas Tech, 5-1. Your boy DeRuiter, our guy. Joey McGuire, who I root for.
DeRuiter's is a coordinator, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
5-1. And by the way, you know who they beat earlier in the year by 1 point?
Who?
Like, I might be wrong about the score, like 52-51 or something crazy. They beat Abilene Christian by 1 point. He says no.
Yeah.
They're 5-1, undefeated. Big 12's crazy at the top. It's like Tech, BYU, and then like Iowa State are like undefeated. But then right up there is Iowa State and BYU are both 6-0, and then you got right behind them like Utah, Colorado, K-State. K-State will be. So that league's fun.
Did you see that Utah game? Did you
Cam
see how their
Rising.
quarterback looked?
Yeah, I couldn't believe he didn't take him out.
What was going on with that? And they left him in the whole game. That was
looked
really,
bad.
really weird.
I mean,
It was
those are
almost
some of
like
the
point
worst throws.
shaving.
Well, it was almost like, well, now the other quarterback, when he filled in, had a ton of interceptions. But it was like you could watch that game and go, there's no way this guy's going to win a game for you.
I'd have put a running back at
so
quarterback. I'd have put a receiver at quarterback or something. I don't know what give me an
was
old
so
high
hurt.
school quarterback or something.
I feel like that, that's the guy that's constantly hurt. I feel like Whittingham did him a disservice and almost was like too loyal
Right.
to him. And then finally, Sean, SEC this weekend. Trying to think of the biggest games. Let's get your predictions. We know what they are. I can't believe I'm trying to think of them. Sorry, Georgia fans. Sorry, Longhorn fans listening.
Georgia,
But-
Texas. Is this weekend?
Georgia, Texas this weekend. But first, another big one is going to take place in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Oh.
Where last time I think Morgan Wallen wrote a song about it. Actually, he didn't. He already had one. But last time they met up there, Hendon Hooker, Tennessee, walked off Bama. Place went nuts, stormed the field. It was the first time they beat them in forever.
Yeah.
You know the song, they beat us every damn year. If you haven't heard it, it's a country song about football.
No,
and
I've heard the
girls.
song.
I love that song.
Yeah.
But anyway, that was last year. Bama's going back up. Both those teams look vulnerable. Who do you think wins that one?
Man, I think that those players from Alabama are going to remember last year and remember everybody storming the field, and they ain't letting it happen again. So I got Bama.
I'll take, here's to me, and I know he struggles at times, still throwing, hitting the routine stuff,
Milroe.
but I'll take Milroe in that one over Nico, and I'll take Bama's defense against a Tennessee offense that has all of a sudden looked bad. They looked bad against Florida. They should have lost that game, and they looked bad against Arkansas.
Right.
And then finally, we can't go without talking Texas, Georgia. How do you see that one playing out in Austin at night, college game day? It's the biggest game probably of the year. Well
definitely the
Bama,
biggest
Georgia was
game.
just as big, but it's the biggest game of the year.
For Texas, for sure, the biggest game, the biggest challenge of the year. Their only real big challenge of the year, really, before that showdown with us here at Kyle Field at the end of the year. Man, all season I've been saying Georgia's going to go up there and whoop them. I guess I'll have to just stick with my guns.
And all season I've said Texas is going to beat them.
Yeah, I mean, I
hate it.
it almost
I believe
it almost hurts me to say that. But, I mean, I don't know. I do think this is their biggest challenge, though. So I think if anybody on their schedule so far has had a chance to beat them, it's Georgia.
If there's anything
Two
they've
people
been
got a shot at 'em.
hiding because of the opposition that can get exposed, this is the group that would do it, right?
Two teams got a shot at them this year. That's Georgia and us. So
Yep.
let's see how it goes.
I'm going to go, by the way, shout out to one of the all-time Longhorn greats, saw him this weekend up in Dallas, Sean Rogers. Told him Seth McKinney still claims he's the hardest guy he's ever had to block at that level, him and Will Fort. But Sean, a bunch of Longhorns up there still from that game. So good group of dudes. And they're like, you got to come see a game in Austin. They're like, it's
We'll go
different.
next year.
And they know, they're like, it's different. Because they know that it didn't used to be.
It was trash.
Yeah, like the atmosphere, they knew it wasn't up to snuff. And but now, I believe it because you can see it on TV a little bit. Like, I think this weekend it's going to look like a hell of a time there in Austin at DKR. But
I don't think they can sustain that though, week after week after week, right?
well, they have. To me, they have to be winning at this level.
Right, they do.
Whereas A&M,
anytime,
it's just going to be like that. Yeah,
Exactly.
in a lot of places in the SEC.
If they're not the number one team in the nation, nobody, their fans are not.
Everybody, when they're number one, has a. But they got a great thing going for now. Hopefully, Mike Oko and the Aggies put a squash in that at the end of the year.
Yeah, man, that'd be nice.
But Georgia in this one. Here's my problem, Sean, with Georgia. They can't. I have not been very impressed with them. I mean, look, they were in a dogfight with Mississippi State for the first half of that one. They were in a dogfight with Auburn for the first half.
Yeah.
And that kind of scares you.
Not the same old Bulldogs.
Like I've had people go, oh, Mississippi State getting better. Uh-oh, like Auburn gave Georgia a run. We got to play them. I'm like, Kentucky should have beaten them.
Kentucky's got some good DBs.
They didn't call. They didn't call a penalty. Kentucky should have beaten them. And then, whoever Alabama was up on them 28-0. A Bama team that has since lost to Vandy and almost lost to South Carolina.
Yep.
Like, there are questions about the Georgia Bulldogs right now. And it'll be interesting to see. I think Texas wins because I think the problem for Georgia, I think if Texas loses a game, it's going to be against an elite defense with an offense that can score. Like, they're going to lose to somebody 31-27. And maybe that's A&M at Kyle Field. I don't think Georgia's defense is anywhere close to what it's been.
Yeah, they've lost
And offensively, I don't think their weapons are to be feared.
Yeah.
So I think Texas wins that game in Austin, which, okay, let's go. Let them come in here undefeated. Let's see.
I will say.
I do think Texas loses one somewhere along the way.
I will say it's hard to find a team who has just loaded with weapons that are to be feared too. So
Yeah, this year it doesn't seem like.
people got one guy, or
Yeah. All right. Sean Porter, Billy Liucci,
That is it.
LiucciCast. We will be back next week. I said we got a special guest. I'm going to be on tomorrow morning at some point with Hunter. He wants to come in this week, so that'll be fun too. Talk to y'all later.